Hello and welcome to episode 15 of the Blind Android Users Podcast. I'm Ed Green and I'm joined by my co-hosts Warren Carr, Austin Pinto and Mariam Mohsen. On this week's episode, we have our announcements from Austin. In the Android Basics section, we're going to talk about two things. We'll talk about file management and different file management apps on Android, and we'll also talk about battery management and optimization. In the In Focus section, we're joined by Kyle Hunsberger from GoneMad Software to talk about the GoneMad music player. And that's our app of the week, and Austin will be demonstrating that later. And finally, our Android Journey section this week comes from our own Mariam Mohsen. Good evening, guys from the UK. How are we all?
Hello.
Doing well from here, Edward. It's a nice day, actually, kind of a little bit on the cloudy side, but we're going to be maybe like 52 degrees today. So nice day going here in the central part of the state of Washington.
You well, Austin?
It's a very nice day in India also, but it's getting hot now. Summers have started.
Yeah, it's a bit overcast here. It's a bit sunny, but fairly boring weather day here in London. Austin, let me turn to you then. What announcements have we got this week?
So before we start the show, there is a little depressing news. Some hours before we could start the recording, there was a news that Japan is hit with a 7.2 magnitude earthquake, and our prayers and support are with our Japanese listeners. In the announcement section, we have got a very big announcement. We have started our YouTube channel, and the link will be on our website and also in the show notes. And all our old episodes, as well as all the upcoming episodes, will be uploaded to the channel.
Great, thanks, Austin. So that's just one more way you can keep up with us, along with the website, your favorite podcast client, Twitter, and Telegram. You know, YouTube is now an option if that's your preferred consumption method. So do check us out on there. In our Android Basics section this week, we'll talk about file management. You'll know that one of the really big advantages of Android is that you can very easily transfer content onto your device by connecting it to your PC, and it shows up as a drive. And when you copy things into certain folders, that's where they'll be when you disconnect your device from your computer. But what's the best way then to manipulate them on your Android device? What's the best app to use? What do you want to accomplish? Mariam, I know you've got some views on this. Do you want to kick us off with your experience of file management on Android?
All right, so actually file management is one of the best things, as you mentioned, that actually Android has. So there are a lot of file managers, and every single phone comes with a file manager. And every company does have a certain file manager dedicated to this company. For instance, we do have the Samsung file manager, we do have the Google file manager, which comes with the Pixel phones, and also we do have. Do we have OnePlus Austin file manager, or we don't?
Yeah, we do OnePlus File Manager also. We have.
Yeah, so cool. And actually, recently companies put out their file managers in the Play Store to give people opportunity to download and install those file managers and test them themselves. So the first file manager I've ever dealt with was the Samsung file manager, and it was working pretty well until recently. So the Samsung file manager is pretty easy. It has a really, really simple layout, and everything that you can do is definitely accessible without any unlabeled buttons, since I've actually started using it since like 2014. So what the problem here when it comes to accessibility with Samsung File Manager is that if you want to copy or remove multiple files at the same time, when you select every single file, the screen reader loses focus and it jumps to the first item, or it actually jumps to the top of the page, which is definitely annoying if you want to finish what you're doing quickly. But on the other hand, it works perfectly fine without any problems. And here I'm gonna talk about the Google File Manager, and I think Warren doesn't agree with me when I say that Google's File Manager has a little bit of stupid things, actually. Sorry. And what Google File Manager did to me was unforgivable. So I do love Google's File Manager, and when I first installed it, I was definitely completely satisfied with what it does. But then, just a month ago, something happened, and I was definitely dissatisfied, and I decided to not use it again. Or rather, not use it regarding cleaning. So Google's File Manager contains 3 tabs, I think: the clean, and the share, and the what it's called. There's another tab. So the clean tab, what it does is it gives you possibility to actually clean the things that you have on your phone. If you do have, multiple copies of same file or anything like that. So what Google File Manager did to me, it told me that I do have 2 copies of, more than one file, and I believed it. Even though I was pretty sure that I've already deleted those. So I deleted all the files that it told me there were, additional, and then I didn't find anything. So that's when I decided to not use Google File Manager in cleaning at all, which definitely is bad.
Okay, Miriam. So are you done, ranting about the Google File Manager, and it's time
Oh,
for
I'm
you to
not, but I'm
rebuttal?
just giving you a chance.
Oh, my dear. Okay, so here's what's going on. I happen to be, coming from the other side of the aisle, and that's to say that I
Mhm.
like Google File Manager. And here's why. And here's how it goes when it comes to using Google File Manager. But before I talk about that, though, I want to talk a little bit about the history of file managers when Android got started. Back in the day, the king on the hill was the S File Explorer, ES File Explorer, or something like that. And for a long time, they were the go-to file manager, because when Android started, there was no file manager. So it gave room or gave rise to all these file managers, and S File Explorer was the one to go to. And every time someone installed or set up an Android device, the thing was, hey, make sure you install the S File Explorer. Now, over the years, I think it was maybe in 2014 or maybe 2015 that they got sold, and then those guys started putting some, malware and stuff like that, or tracking stuff, and so it fell from being the favorite. So I think it was in 2017 or 2016. I don't remember. I tend to be the historian, but sometimes I forget my dates. That the Google Files Manager came to us, or was it 2018? It was
20.
called Files Go. That's the name it was called by. It was Files Go, and the whole idea was intended for the Go phones, like the Android Go phones that didn't have enough, and so you have things like YouTube Go, Maps Go, Assistant Go, and that was the whole idea. It was not intended for phones like yours and mine, but then it got adopted by even people who were not using the Go phones, and so Google changed it from Files Go to just Files. And so here's what happens when you bring up files. So I want to bring up the file manager, the files here by Google.
Files.
Let's look at it a little
Files. Show navigation menu button.
bit. So when you launch it, you hear it says show navigation
Menu.
and if I tap on that, we have
Open feedback. File settings. Share offline. Fast share 669 MB. Stay saved. Share offline. Fast sharing with other files users.
so you can share files offline.
Settings.
And then in the settings,
Navigate up button.
here's what we have.
Settings. Clean. Heading and list.
You can clean.
Notifications. Choose which notifications you get. Hidden suggestions. Browse. Heading.
So there's the browse.
Clear search history. Clear searches made on this device. Pause search history. Temporarily hide searches made on this device from the search history. Switch off. Show hidden files. Show files that are used to run Android and apps. Switch off. Save folder. Share. Heading.
And that save folder is what I call the porn folder, whatever.
Your name. Tap to set your name. Other settings. Heading. About Files app.
Okay. So that would be in
Files.
the
Settings. Out of list.
settings area. Now, here's what I like about files. Now, when you do that clean, though, what you want to do with Google Files is that you want to put the things that you don't want cleaned in your favorites or in your saved folder. For instance, so if you scroll down,
Favorites.
you'll find the favorites
Save folder.
and you find the saved folder. Now, if I go to
Favorites.
my favorites, I think
Favorites.
I put
Navigate up
something
button.
in there.
Underscore to underscore uninstall underscore Samsung underscore talkback underscore replace underscore with underscore Google underscore talkback docs. Favorited file 17.30 KB from March 6th.
So this is the one that I got that, Austin sent me, and I put it in my favorites. Now, I could also put that in my save folder, and
Files.
the save folder,
Save folder.
um,
Enter pin.
when
Enter
you
your pin here.
launch your save folder, it's going to ask you to create a pin for it. I do want to say here that when you launch this and you get to the files, you have to double tap. Lift to type does not work. There we
Save
go.
folder. Navigate up button.
So I am now in my save folder.
Move any files you want to keep protected by a lock to this folder.
So you want to put your things in here that you don't want to, accidentally clean, because what Google Files, when especially looking for the cleaning of your files, is looking for duplicates and things like that, and things you don't want to ever get touched. You want to put those in either your favorites or in the save folder. So as you can see, it's a really nice file management, and you have the two tabs at the bottom there. You have the clean and the browse. So when you tap on the browse, then you can go.
Images 201 KB. Videos 0B. Audio 15 MB.
You can go through all of that and clean up, or browse the things that you want. You can move them to whatever, and just basic file management. And that's what these Google Files do. So if you're looking for a clean file manager, this could be one of them. Although my favorite is the what is that? Solid Explorer.
Hey, so before we move on to that, I just want to point something out regarding the Google Files Manager. So actually, when I rename my files, Google Files Manager doesn't realize that, and that means it doesn't refresh itself, which is bad. And it makes me doubt myself, so I actually went to another file explorer, and it showed me the files renamed as I actually renamed them. So it sometimes actually, messes things up, and it definitely has some advantages as well. So I definitely do agree with you, but I still hate it.
Miriam, could it be that after renaming, though, you need to refresh the folder? Because all file managers would do that. If you don't refresh that folder or exit out of it, you're not going to see the change. So let's see if that's the case. So I'm gonna go in here in my favorites. I'm gonna rename that Austin sent.
Internal store elections favorites.
Okay, so
underscore to underscore on it. One selected 17.30 KB.
Okay.
More options button. Pop-up window. Open with and list. Deselect all. Move to save backup to Google rename.
So I'm going to call it New Dog.
Voice input.
New Dog.
Done. Keyboard hidden. New rename. New dog.docs. Edit box for rename. OK button. File renamed. Cleared file select. New dog.docs. Favorited file.
Yeah, so there it is. It actually works.
Yeah, it actually works when you rename it through the Google Files Manager. But what I did was that I renamed the file through another files manager, and I made sure that it's actually renamed, and I connected my phone to my laptop to make sure it's renamed. But Google Files Manager didn't actually.
And good thing you talk about, the computer, because we also need to touch lightly on that. Now, so if you have a phone, this is one of the goodness that Edward was talking about when it comes to Android file management. So if I were to use my computer in managing my files, what I would do is to plug my phone to the computer with the USB cord.
Charging started, battery level 80%.
So I just plugged it in and it says it's charging my device. So by default, when you hook up your phone to your computer, the default mode is charging the phone. So what you want to do, if you want to do file transfer, is to swipe down with 2 fingers from the top of the phone.
Notification shade, 10:26 a.m.
And that brings us to the notification shade. And what we're looking for here is an item that says Android system charging this device. So I'm going to find that part.
YouTube daily deal, Samsung frame QLED at 40 degrees, clear sky, sunrise. Spotify, dining Android system, charging this device via USB, collapsed.
So that's where we want to tap.
Collapsed.
We tap here.
USB preferences, navigate up, button.
Once we tap on that, we have a series of radio buttons here. And what we're looking for is the one that talks about file transfer and auto or something to that effect.
Radio button, not checked. File transfer / Android auto. Radio button, not checked. USB tethering. Radio button, not checked. MIDI. Radio button, not checked. PTP. Radio button, checked. No data transfer.
So you see at the default is no data transfer.
Radio button, checked. This device.
Okay, so what we want is the file transfer.
Radio button, not checked. USB tethering. Radio button, not checked. File transfer / Android auto. Checked.
So when you do that, you could hear the sound changes on your computer, disconnects and reconnects it in the file transfer mode. And so it will then show up on your computer the name of your phone, and when you tap on it, when you click on it on your computer in your file management on the computer, if it has both the internal and SD card storages, you will see both of those storages in there. But if it's just one single internal and doesn't have an SD card storage, all you're going to see is the one that says internal storage. And so you click on that, and there you can manage your folders and files, copy them to your computer or copy files from your computer to your phone via the USB. So very good, Mariam, that you brought that, or Edward, you talked about that earlier. So it makes sense that we let people know how to go about managing files between their computer and their phone. And that will be my little thing about that file manager.
Thanks, Warren. I mean, we're going to talk about some of our favorites. You mentioned Solid Explorer earlier. Why do you like Solid Explorer?
Now, so Solid Explorer, and the reason why I like Solid Explorer, it has support for like FTP and all kinds of stuff. And also it happens to be the very first ones that kind of understands how scope storage works. And so if you're looking for a good file management, that is the one to go for. And it's not free. It gives you like a 14-day trial. And after that, then you can buy it. I think it's either $2.99 or $3.99. I don't remember. But that's one of the reasons why I like File Explorer. I mean,
Is that a
File
lifetime
Explorer.
subscription or it's like an annual?
No, that's just a one-time payment.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
That sounds good, and it's certainly always highly rated in the charts if you look up file managers. I quite like Total Commander, which has been around a long time. It's a solid app. It's highly customizable. I think they're a bit conscious of bloatware. So if you wanted to do certain things, you have to install plugins which are from the Play Store, so you're not side-loading anything. But for instance, if you want to add a third-party service to Total Recorder, like OneDrive, like Dropbox, like Google Drive, you need to install the relevant plugin. I guess if you don't have all of those services, you might quite reasonably not want that functionality in the app. But like Solid Explorer, that supports FTP, secure FTP over SSH. It'll support network shares. You can send files to people over Wi-Fi, regardless of what device they have, as long as it has a browser. And it'll zip files as well as unzip them. So that's a nice free option. It will tell you it has ads. It doesn't. That's just the way it interprets the plugins folder. But if you want a free, powerful, albeit a little bit fiddly, option, then Total Commander is what I enjoy using. Mariam, what have you settled on now you've fallen out with Files by Google?
So I'm using right now Explorer. It's a really highly customizable files manager, and it gives you also some really advanced things if you actually want to, change some settings regarding what do you want, and also the sorting if you want to sort folders, sort audio files, and some things like that. It's actually really amazing. You can also zip and unzip files and share via Wi-Fi, as well as create a text files through the app. It's cool.
That sounds good too. Is that free?
Yes, it's free. Completely free, actually.
Yeah. And Austin, what are you using?
I use the default OnePlus File Manager. It's very simplistic. Not much features, but it comes with the phone and it gets you done if you have some basic requirements.
Does the job.
That sounds good.
Yeah.
Well, so, something I wanted to check, though, before we go, I wanted to see, I'm going to go rename that file with my Solid Explorer, the file that I named dog or new dog, and see if the files from Google would understand that the Solid Explorer, when it says app icon in Solid Explorer, that is to navigate the top or whatever.
Storages.
Okay.
Internal memory.
So I'm going to go to my internal storage.
Download one item.
Let's
16.89.
change this.
Disabled. Column heading. Docs. 16.89 KB. March 6, 2021. 9:51.
Okay. So I'm going to rename this. And what shall we call it?
Action overflow. Button. Action rename.
The fight. Call it the fight.
I call it the fight.
Voice
Okay.
input.
The fight with Mariam.
Done. Solid Explorer. The fight with Mariam. Docs. 16.89 KB. March 6, 2021.
Isn't that a beautiful name? Okay. All right. Now that I've renamed it to the fight with Mariam, I'm going to go to the Google Files Manager here.
Internal storage. 17 GB.
So I'm going to internal storage.
App backup, audio books, DCIM, March documents, March 5th, 8th of 20.
Let's scroll down.
Documents, March download, Eloquences, download, just now. Download, selected. The fight with Mariam. Docs, 17.3.
There you go. There's the fight with Mariam.
Yes, the
So
fight with Mariam.
don't poo-poo my Google Files Manager.
Yes.
Isn't it nice to fight with a lady? But guys, don't do this at home.
Good advice. So actually, I do want to mention something before we end this subject regarding the Samsung Files Manager, because it's really a pretty cool feature. And as far as I have seen, it doesn't exist in other Files Manager. But, correct me if I'm wrong. So since, all the Samsung files that have gotten Android 10, and they have actually updated the One UI, the Files Manager has been updated, so once you delete a file, it actually gets saved or it moves to a trash that actually, remains for 15 days, and then it gets deleted permanently, which is pretty cool, actually.
My favorite File Explorer, the solid one, when you're deleting a file, it will ask you whether you want to move it to the trash or permanently delete. So you could choose to do either.
That's amazing. I think I'll be using that one. We'll see.
It's a nice file manager.
Excellent. Well, that was a really good discussion. So plenty of choice for everyone out there. Even if you like your default file manager, you might want to see if some of the ones we've talked about offer any functionality that you're missing out on. Next, we want to talk about battery management and battery optimization. What do you do about those apps that are hogging your battery requirements and draining your phone more quickly than you might like? Warren, do you want to take us away on this one?
It's a nice subject matter to talk about because you got your phone and now you're wondering, what's eating that battery? Who is eating whichever one of your files or apps is eating that battery like a kid in a candy store. And so it's time for us to look at the battery management and see how to manage or which ones to exclude from eating your battery.
Scanning face.
So
10:37 a.m.
I'm going to
Device unlocked.
bring up my, we're going to
Notification
go into the system settings where we find the battery management. And this is where that shortcut maker would have come in handy, wouldn't it? So I go into
Auto rotate screen. Stage 1 of 2. Open settings. Button.
open settings.
Settings. Search settings.
And now I'm going to go to where it talks about battery.
Connect apps and notifications. Battery 81 display. Battery 81%. About 1 day. 1 hour left. Battery. Navigate up. Button out of list.
So when we open up the
battery.
here's what we got.
Search settings.
You could search.
Help and feedback. More options. Button. 81%. About 1 day. 1 hour left based on your usage. And list. Apps are running normally. Phone has typical background battery usage.
Okay.
Battery saver off.
You can turn that on, most especially if you're out and about, out in the woods. You want to turn this on so that it restricts the background, some of the things that are constantly checking for notifications and things like that. You could turn that on.
Adaptive battery on / extends battery life based on your phone use.
So mine is on. If you tap here.
Adaptive battery. Navigate up. Button out. Adaptive battery. Search settings. Help and feedback. Adaptive charging. Charge steadily over adaptive battery. Extends battery life based on your phone use. Switch on. Adaptive charging. Charge steadily overnight to preserve long-term battery life. Uses alarm to completely charge by vacuum. Switch on.
So I could plug this overnight and it will slowly charge my phone and, up to like 6 o'clock. So the trick is that you have to plug it in, I think before 9 or at 9 o'clock or something like that. I don't remember.
To extend battery life, adaptive battery may reduce performance and background activity. Notifications for some apps may be delayed.
Okay. I'm going to go back.
Battery. Full charge lasts about 1 day, 10 hours. Screen usage since full charge, 1 hour, 4 minutes. Battery usage data is approximate and can change based on usage.
But here's the part that I want to talk about is found in the more on the top right corner. Now, it may be different in some other devices. I'm demonstrating this on my Google Pixel phone. And the tendency is that this could be a little bit different in other phones.
Help with more options button. Pop-up window. Battery usage and list.
So when you tap on the more options, there's something that calls battery usage. That's the one I want us to take a look at because it breaks down how much each of your app uses.
Battery usage. Navigate up. Button out of list.
So let's see here. We got
81%, 100%, 50%, 0%, 12 hours ago, 1 day left. Battery left estimate is based on your device usage and list. Battery Telegram used for 28 minutes, 4%.
So I used it for 28 minutes and that thing ate 4%.
ETI Eloquence TTS, 2%.
Okay.
Pixel Launcher used for 9 minutes, 1%. Files by Google used for 7 minutes, 1%. BitMeet used for 6 minutes, 1%. Navigate up button. Out of
So
list.
you understand what goes on. So it's showing the apps that I have used recently and how much of those, how much of the percentage of my battery those things are eating. So if you go in here and you see that a particular app tends to use too much of your app, then you could decide to restrict it or maybe set the restriction at a certain time of day and things like that. This is something you can go in and play with. We could do a whole episode on this if we wanted to, because it's very lengthy, but I just want to give you a quick overview of what this thing does. And that will be my little thing about battery management.
Thanks, Warren. And it's really useful to go in there and just have a look at what your apps are doing, because you will get some surprising results quite a lot of the time. Apps taking up way more battery than you think they should. So thanks for showing us that. Now in our In Focus section, we're joined by Kyle Hunsberger from GoneMad Software to talk about the GoneMad music player.
I would like to welcome Kyle from the GoneMad Music. I have with me today Mariam and Austin Pinto. Guys, meet Kyle.
Hi, Kyle.
Hi, Kyle.
Austin.
Nice to meet you.
Hello. How you guys doing? Thanks for having me.
Well, Kyle, we want to welcome you to Blind Android Users, and it's so exciting that you were able to join us today. We've been talking about this over the few past weeks, and that day finally is here. And so we have a few questions that we would like to ask you, but I think that Mariam, the young lady, has a burning question that she's been burning to ask you about.
Yeah.
And so, Mariam, you want to ask how that question?
So, okay, when I first actually saw the application on Play Store, I was just really curious about the name because, if you see a different name on Play Store, you just get kind of, okay, does that sound good or not? And sometimes for me, as a person who loves to try applications, like, okay, that sounds like a different thing. So how did you get the idea of this different name?
Yeah, I get that a lot. So it started off back in, back when you first trying to establish an online presence in like the 2000s and stuff. I had, trying to think of a name. I'm not very good at that. So I had been a big fan of kind of the new metal scene and stuff. And there was a band in Florida called GoneMad, and that kind of stuck. And then when, I started joining like the IRC chat and whatnot, you're forced to use a name. So I was like, let me just use that. And I kind of got known as GoneMad. And then when I would be playing a game, they need an alias. So I just used GoneMad. And then over time, I'm never good at coming up with names for my personal projects. I'd always name them GoneMad something. Like I wrote a media library that interacted with Winamp, and I was like GoneMad Media Library, GMML. And then when I got to the point of doing Android apps, a music player, I was just like, oh, I'll just name it after myself, because at that point I was GoneMad. You'll see me, when I'm typing out, it's usually GMMP or whatever. So it takes a long time to say, but and when typing it up, just 4 letters. And that's kind of how I got that name. Also, I was going to say, the coming up with app names, you always have to worry about the legal aspect of it. And like you said, GoneMad is it's kind of an odd name. So on my quick searches, there's no GoneMad anything. So when I created an LLC for my app, just for, the little protection I get there, I was like GoneMad Software and then GoneMad Music Player. And also it'll just, like you said, it's odd. So it's not like a standard name. So maybe catching people's interest.
Yeah, it does actually. So actually, was it your first app that you put out on the Play Store, or you've actually developed anything else before?
It was my first app. I'll go into how I kind of created this app. So my reasoning behind it, I had, I have a long history of doing software development, but I always wanted to get into Android development. And this was like 2011, around there. I didn't have an Android device yet. So I was looking online. I found this 5-inch Android tablet that was running Donut. So this is 1.6, and there was not much of a selection for Android apps at the time, especially music players. It was a 500 gig player or tablet, and the default music player came with only supported 32,000 songs, which, if you have a programming background, you can understand where that limit comes from. A 16-bit integer can only hold 32,000 different numbers. So for whatever reason, they limited it to that. And 500 gigabytes, how that can be a lot more. So with that frustration, like I had so much more in there. I was like, let's, I wanted to get into Android development. So I'm like, I'm going to give myself a challenge. I looked on Google's documentation, saw the media player APIs. I'm like, this is not that hard. So I gave myself a challenge to, create a workable music player in a weekend. And if you go to my blog, there are probably 15 or so posts that I blogged throughout the weekend. I kind of closed off my schedule. I wasn't married at the time, so I didn't have to worry about dealing with the wife and kids. And by the end of, I started on Friday night. By the end of Sunday, I had a workable player with a, built-in, I called it a playlist at the time. It was a queue, a library, and I was able to play songs. And I kind of just continued from there, because there was it was an Arcos device, and on the forums, a lot of people had similar complaints. So I started posting on there, maybe like a few weeks later, when I had a little more workable version, and kind of, I honestly just forgot about that for a while, and this just kind of sparked up that memory. But that kind of got them there's a few users really into it, so they kept on downloading and giving me feedback, and then it just kind of evolved into that music player, and that I put out on the Play Store probably a half year later, and now we have 3.0 that just came out about a month or two ago.
So Kyle, I kind of go back to when I first came across GoneMad, and that was back in 2013. And of course, at the time, I had just gotten my Samsung Galaxy S4, and we were taking a trip as a family across the country. We were going from the state of Washington to Ohio, and I used that player. But then the good thing about that player that really thrilled me was the crossfading feature that seemed to be the only one at the time that had it. And then also the fact that it was completely accessible with my TalkBack, the screen reader as a blind person TalkBack that I used. Now, tell us about how you came about making that accessible to blind people, and if this was such a difficult undertaking to make it accessible.
I'll be honest, it was a complete accident that it was as accessible as it was. Basically, when you're creating the UIs, you have a bunch of fields, you set the properties and stuff, and there was a field that was like content description, and the IDE I was using to develop, it's like, you should populate this. I was like, okay. And, not really knowing what it did, but it's easy. It's just, a small little description of whatever the UI element is, a UI element that a user would care about. Who cares if it's a background? You don't need to know what the name of the background is or anything. But I did that, and then the forum that I guess a lot of the blind users that I guess had contacted me, someone from there, and pointed me to that, and I found there's a whole community of users that were really into this player. So being able to get feedback from them, because me not being a blind user, I've used TalkBack before, and that alone is probably the biggest difficulty, is just trying to navigate with that on there.
Yeah.
Especially I get it on, I'm like, how do I get it off?
Yeah.
But so going through all that, and then users reaching out, and once I was made aware, I made that kind of the forefront of whenever I'm doing, same with translations as well. I want to make sure when I'm adding something new that I'm getting it as translated and as accessible as possible. The original, so let's say, we'll talk about it later, but like the GoneMad Classic, that UI was pretty straightforward, not as much dynamic stuff. So as long as I defined we define the UIs in an XML file, as long as it's listed there, it's great. But in the newer 3.0, there's a lot more dynamic user interface stuff you can do. You can add custom buttons and actions to your now playing screen. And a lot of that stuff is just done on the fly. So I had to make sure that every single button, action, icon had a description that goes along with it. So that's kind of how all this happened. And like I said, once I was made aware, I'm more than happy to do whatever I can to support you guys. I had a user reach out during the beta of 3.0 about one of the newer UI elements that happened to be a third-party library that I was using, and it wasn't working too well. So I was like, all right, let me look into it. There's only so much I can do because it's not my code. But fortunately, going on GitHub, saw that someone else had reported the bug, and I just had to update the library. And sure enough, it worked. The user was happy, and everyone's good.
That's
Actually,
what
it's
we
really
like.
great to consider accessibility when you're developing stuff, because I know a lot of developers just, either don't care, or people or blind people don't reach out to them and say like, hey, okay, this is not accessible, or there are some buttons that aren't labeled or anything. So I really, really do appreciate this, because it's something that every single developer actually needs to consider when he's developing something, because, now we can, as blinds, download anything through Play Store and install stuff. And it's definitely, really important to do that.
I completely agree. And I've always gotten a lot of the feedback I've got from our users, like, wow, you respond really fast and stuff. Like, I don't like seeing unread emails. So it's like, I always encourage my users to reach out. Don't, if you have something to say to me, don't do a comment on the, a review on the Play Store, because you can't really have a talk through a review that you just edit back and forth. Toss me an email, post in the forums. I have a Discord set up if someone wants to come in to chat on there. So I'm more than welcome to talk to users. And honestly, half of the features on there were requests from users. I used to be a little more picky with how I listen to my music, but nowadays I'm just throwing everything on shuffle, or I use the auto DJ, which is kind of a combination of the two. But yeah, I'm always looking for feedback. So yeah.
So Kyle, let's talk about, because you get two concurrent versions running on there on the Play Store. We have the Classic and we have the regular 3.0. Now tell our listeners what the differences are between these two versions, and as to whether or not one should get either or which one, depending on the age of the device, which one to get.
Sure. So Classic is my original app that I developed back in 2011. Did wrote the player, continued on. It got to the point, Google introduced material design, so I kind of revamped the UI, but it's still all on this old code base that was developed in the gingerbread days. It got to the point that it was really hard to maintain, but so many people love that when I started 3.0, it was not necessarily from scratch, but in the end, I rewrote about 75-80% of it using all the newer libraries that Google has put out. Because back when I first started, if you wanted to do something that wasn't supported by the bare bones API, you had to write something custom. So 2.0 had a lot of custom stuff in there, like that old Hollow UI had a lot of custom code in there. And over time, that becomes really hard to maintain, especially after Google releases an update that breaks 3/4 of what you did. And it got to the point that it was just really hard to support. So that was the main incentive. And just I wanted to do something new for 3.0. So if you have an older device and you like a UI that's based off of a bunch of tabs going back and everything in a single tab and nice, and I'm not going to say my 3.0 is not responsive, but it works the Classic works way better on older devices. I would still recommend trying 3.0, but there's always that option of going back to Classic. Originally, I always want to make, if you look on my website, I have not every single APK or whatever, but the older like 1.0, 1.1, all those old versions available to download, just in case, because at some point I dropped support for an older version of Android or something like that. So I always wanted to make it available. And when I came out with 3.0, I had the old one, Classic. It was 2.x on my site, but a lot of people just don't want to sideload. So I was fortunate that Google has put a lot of restrictions on some newer versions of Android, mainly file storage. And they were planning on enforcing this a few years ago, and they've delayed. So that gave me a little window that I was able to re-upload a new app that still followed all the old standards. I didn't have to comply with the new scope storage, if you've ever heard of that.
Of course.
So yeah, that's up there. I have about another half year until I will not be able to update it. So if there's critical issues, I'll still update Classic on that. But my focus is on 3.0 because that was about 4 years of development. I spent a lot of time on that, trying to follow all the guidelines and everything. And yeah, so and they're both, it's 14-day trial on both of them, so it's free to try. There's no reason why you can't try them both and see which one you like better.
Now, what's the price of, if one wants to be able to remove the ads and get all the functionalities of the app? I know I bought mine so long ago, Kyle, that I don't remember. Was it $2.99 or $3.99? I don't even remember.
The base price. Now, just want to say there's no ads. It's a trial. So after you can't use it after the 14 days.
Okay. So when you install it, you have every access to the app.
Yes, it's the full
14
app.
days.
Yes, 14 days. So the base price is $3.99 US. Recently, I did, after talking with a user from India, like I know I guess it's considered very expensive there, so I did lower it to 100 of rupees, I guess.
Indian rupees.
Yes, Indian rupees, which I think it brings it down closer to the $1.50
like a
range
dollar
or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the base price, but I always try to do sales. There hasn't been any sales lately because I've been mainly, last 4 years really working a lot on trying to get 3.0 out there. But I will be having a 10-year anniversary sale, most likely 50% off in April, because I started this on April 1st, surprisingly, in 2011. So
it's not going to come
great.
along as an April's Fool kind of thing,
Yeah. Yeah. So that'll be a week period. So there's no hurry. You can try out that for a while. And I'm very specific. I'll say the dates if you look at my blog or Twitter or any of that stuff, or my subreddit. I'll announce the time range, so you don't have to just buy it. I encourage you to buy it right away, but you don't have to download it, purchase it, and then if you don't like it, then you don't have to ask for a refund. Just give it a try. If you like it, then you got some time to get it on sale.
Because I noticed that you are giving some free codes, redemption codes on subreddit, and I'm like, I already have a code, and I think that's when I reached out to you and see if you could come on for a little chat with us, so our listeners will get to know you and all of that. And so that's how I kind of revitalized, the GoneMad, and then I went and re-downloaded because I know I had it, but it's there in my library, and I haven't been playing music much. But then I'm like, oh gosh, GoneMad music, I need to re-download that, and so that's what revitalized or reawakened me back to GoneMad music, and then I got in touch with you.
Great. It sounded like my plan worked. That was why I did the giveaway, is to get, advertising is expensive, and I've paid for advertising on Reddit, and it's pretty much, I'm going to say useless. You have to spend a lot of money. So the best way to do it is really through sales and giveaways. And if you want people talking about it, so I really rely on word of mouth. And I feel like, I try to respond as best as I can to the users, and, I think a lot of developers just ignore, the feedback they get and stuff like that, but I always try to respond. So I hope that extra effort, people realize that, and they recommend it to their friends or family or whatever.
All right, guys. So if you are listening to this episode and you want to experience GoneMad music, so Kyle would be giving you a free redemption code. So you're going to redeem the app. And if you write to us, of course, you have to write to us at contact@blindandroidusers.com and mention the code. This is our code. It'll be BAU18, Boy Apple Uniform 18. Without mentioning that, we will not give you the redemption code. So the very few people are very first that respond, and once they're exhausted, they're exhausted. Sounds good, guys?
Sounds great.
All right.
I have one last question. The app is music player, but have you thought of adding support to chapter markers let's say our podcast has chapter markers, there'll be other podcasts with chapter markers. So if someone downloads an MP3 file and opens it in the music player, can they navigate by chapters then? Because very few apps have this capability.
So that's a very good question. I don't have support for straight up chapter markers. The audio engine itself does, because if you're familiar with a Q file, let's say you're downloading a dance mix or something like that of 20 some songs, a Q, it's going to be in a single MP3, let's say. The Q file kind of says similar to chapters. This is the start of track 1, track 2, and stuff like that. The audio engine itself supports chapters. I just never expanded that for like audiobooks or podcasts or anything like that. And if you've in 3.0, I did make a specific podcast section. You have to add it to the library. Same with audiobooks. So that is a good point. I will write that down as something to look into, because I assume the chapters are just stored somewhere in the tags of the file. If so, that should translate pretty well. So yeah, I can. If you want to reach out to me, we can discuss it further on how that would be. What's a good way to implement that? Because I don't use podcast players or anything like that, so I don't know how the chapters are typically handled.
So
So I know that
Austin,
Austin said
glad
that's
to
the
hear.
last question, but I do have another question. So people might be curious about what formats does the music player support? Like, does it support MP3, M4A? What else?
Sure. It supports everything that's popular and even less popular. I don't have the full list on me, but off of memory, you have MP3, M4A, all the different various extensions of that, OGG Vorbis, AAC, raw AAC, which is slightly different. Opus, which I know that's a more popular one that's
FLAC.
FLAC, yes, FLAC, and also ALAC. So Apple Lossless is supported. There's some other ones like TTA.
What about Wave?
Yes,
Okay.
regular Wave, but the issue with Wave is there's really no tags associated with that. I believe a Wave file will play as long as it's PCM format. A Wave, you can have a few different ones. Like I've had some users contact me about they want to play their voicemails or something, and it's in a Wave extension, but it's not this PCM format, so that doesn't play. But if you're extracting straight from a CD, that's PCM, and that will work. I would strongly recommend encoding it to FLAC or ALAC or something like that if you want the lossless style. But the other ones I can think of, there's WavePack, which is different than Wave. There's Monkey's Audio, which is ape. If it's popular, if you've heard of it, very high chance that supports it. Yeah. Most of the users are either M4A or MP3 and FLAC. Those are probably the three biggest ones.
Well, thank you so much, Kyle. So we again want to thank you for coming on, and hey, how about we do this again? Maybe say in a couple of months, 3 months, from now, give you feedback on what our people are saying about the music player, because we have a forum, at Blind Android Users. We have Blind Android Users that come, and so we have a forum called Blind Android Users Forum, and so I would like to give you feedback as to what people are saying, and also if you could come back and let's talk a little bit some more down the line. And
sure.
Most especially after we give these free codes to people. I want to keep you abreast with what's going on.
Yeah, that sounds good. I always like hearing feedback.
During that interview with Kyle, you heard us talk about redemption codes, and we do have 10 redemption codes, which we will give you on a first come, first serve basis, which will enable you to get GoneMad Music Player for free. So the first 10 listeners who email us on contactus@blindandroidusers.com, mentioning the code we mention in the interview with Kyle, that's very important. You must mention the code we mentioned in the interview with Kyle in your email. The first 10 people to email us with that code will receive a redemption code, which will enable them to enjoy this fabulous app for free. It goes without saying that our decision is final, and it will be based on the time that your email is received in our inbox. So do take advantage of this. Email us with that code mentioned in the interview on contactus@blindandroidusers.com. And now Austin is going to demonstrate GoneMad Music Player, as it's appropriate that this is our app of the week.
So this is the demo of GoneMad Music Player, and I've installed the trial version from the Play Store, and I've opened the app. So when you open the app for the first time, it asks you for permissions, and
allow GoneMad to access photos, media, and files in your device.
the first
Media
permission
output.
is files and media and photos. So I'll allow that.
GoneMad, scan started. GoneMad, navigation bar, button, trial.
So then there is a thank you for downloading
GoneMad Music
trial.
Player. This trial will last 14 days. Please purchase GoneMad Music Player Unlocker if you would like to continue using GMMP after the trial has expired. Okay, button.
And you click OK.
GoneMad, navigation bar, search, sort, navigation bar, button.
Now then there is a navigation bar. This is the main window of the app. To the left is the navigation
Selected,
bar.
album artists, tab, one of navigation bar, button.
And then to the extreme right, there is more options.
More options, button.
And then to the left of it, there is sort.
Search.
And then to more left, there is search.
Navigation bar,
So
button.
in the navigation bar, we have things like
O__SCH 34 year 2.mp3 unknown artist.
We have some MP3 files
Now playing.
listed.
Queue. Checked. Library. Folder. Playlists. Smart. Bookmarks. Effects.
And you can do some effects here.
Settings.
And settings.
Not checks. Settings. Help.
If we go to settings, there is help.
Advanced settings. Off. Switch.
And
1
then
of 8.
there is
Enlist,
advanced
8 items.
settings.
Scanner. 2 of 8.
Scanner. This will scan for media files.
General. 3 of 8. UI. 4 of 8.
And then there is general UI,
Artwork. 5 of 8.
artwork,
Audio. 6 of 8.
audio,
Bookmarks. 7 of 8. About. 8 of 8.
bookmarks, and then about. And you can explore these settings and check them out.
Album artists. Genres. Tab. 4 of 5. Sort. Out of list.
And then after that, there is in the lower part of the app, there
Genres.
are
Tab. Albums. Tab. Artists.
various
tab.
tabs.
Selected. Album artists. Tab. 1 of 5.
The first tab is album artist.
Artists. Tab. 2 of
The
5.
second is artists.
Albums. Tab. 3 of 5.
Then albums,
Genres. Tab. 4 of 5.
genres,
Songs. Tab. 5 of
and
5.
songs.
Album art. Unknown artist. 1 of 2. Enlist artists.
And
2
then
items.
there are some album art, which is unknown artists. So it will group your audio files that you have on your device. And if it has some ID tags and all those things, it will group them properly. Otherwise, it will be grouped as unknown artists.
Menu. Button.
And then we have back to the
0%.
menu.
Progress bar. Out of list artists.
Then there is this progress bar,
O__SCH 34 year 2.mp3.
and there is an MP3 file. So to play audio, you just need to double tap on an MP3 file and select to open it with GoneMad. However, we won't be playing any audio because this is going to be uploaded to YouTube and we don't want any copyright strikes on our channel. But on some phones, like especially the OnePlus, you may have to go into battery optimization and turn off optimized battery for GoneMad. Otherwise, it won't play the MP3 files. So if it's not playing the file for you, you need to do that. So that was the demo of GoneMad app, and I hope you like the demo. And the app is very accessible, and that is why I think we should support the developer. And there will be a sale of the app around 1st of April. We will let you know when it comes.
And by the way, I think Kyle had mentioned in that interview that it's going to be like by 50%. And also another good thing, well, you guys listened to the interview, is that actually he kind of price it according to the regions. So in India, the price is cheaper than what you would get it for here in the US. So definitely someone to support.
That's a very good point, Warren, and thanks, Austin, for that demo. Obviously, 10 of you won't need to keep an eye out for the sale if you are fast-fingered on your keyboard and follow the instructions previously, because you will get your very own copy of this, courtesy of the redemption codes that Kyle so kindly shared with us. And finally this week, we have our very own Mariam Mohsen with the My Android Journey segment.
Yeah, so actually, when I first participated in this amazing podcast, I thought that I really would like to share my Android journey, since definitely listeners need to know if, the podcasters have experiences regarding Android and things like that. So I will talk about my Android journey and how it's gotten started. So my Android journey started kind of early when I was a fourth grader. I was 9 years old. And I got my first phone, and it was Samsung Galaxy Young. That was a really, really small phone, and the storage in it was like 2 gigabytes. It was just really, really young as it is. So the first thing, how I got started, I've already, back then I've already learned how to use a computer and things like that. And my English teacher, who was my who inspired me to start using technologies and assistive technologies since very, very young age. And actually, through this podcast, I'd like to thank him so much, because he taught me a lot of stuff in the beginning, and then that led me to what I am right now. So when I got my first Samsung Galaxy Young, he actually did install the Smart Voice and the Vocalizer engine. Back then, I didn't know that was called Smart Voice. I was just playing with my phone and, starting to discover things. And back then, I didn't have a Google account or anything like that. I just used it for calling. And just one day, I thought, okay, I do want to use applications. I don't want to use, um, you know, Talking Tom. If you remember this, it was a really, really good game. So I was really interested and curious about how would I download things. So I went to my aunt and I told her like, okay, I do want to download applications. And back then I didn't know what applications meant. I didn't know about the Play Store nor Google Chrome or anything like that. So she actually created me an account, a Google account, and then she installed for me some applications that are for kids. I was a fifth grader then, and I started like I was as a curious. I started looking at the Play Store, and then I found the search, and then I started downloading and installing apps. So since then, I really wanted to, find out more about new apps, and I started installing things and learning about them and seeing, okay, which one's the best. You know, just wanted to learn more. And after that, I started actually communicating with people who are blind and visually impaired who are actually using Android. And I was really glad because I had a lot of questions then. And I found out that, okay, I'm not the only one who uses Android, and I'm not the only one who actually does want to have experiences in that section. And then my phone told me, hey, storage is full. I was like, oh, I need to get a new phone. So I actually got the Samsung Galaxy J7, and it was a pretty cool phone then. Um, I really, really, it was 16 gigabytes, and it had, I think, Android Lollipop. Yes, it had Android Lollipop, and then it's gonna update it to Android Marshmallow. So here I can say that my journey has got a little bit of development. I then learned how to use Facebook and Google Chrome browsing, as well as learning about other stuff like Messenger and things like that. Then I started looking at updates because when I got my Samsung Galaxy Young, back in 20 like 14 or something, it wasn't, updated. It didn't have any updates. So I didn't have any idea about Android and softwares and, that there are versions of Android. So when I got my Samsung Galaxy J7, I got the update of Marshmallow, and I started looking at how to update and what does update mean. What does major update mean? And also, what does minor update means? If it's security update or it's actually an Android update that comes from Google. Since then, I was kind of up to date. I learned about a lot of stuff. I looked for things, and in actually 2019, I joined the Ice Free mailing list by accident. I heard about it, from a friend. He was like, "Okay, there's a list that Google has, created has created for years to share experiences, and developers can actually communicate with blinds and stuff, and they can talk and ask questions." So I joined the Ice Free and I found a whole new world, and I was really glad. But months after I joined, I knew that Ice Free has actually would be just for announcements, and then I joined the Annotate back then mailing list, and I knew about Warren, Austin, and a lot of pretty cool people who actually knew about Android. And this mailing list just gave me a lot of knowledge. When you find people who actually share your passion about Android, who actually defend that Android is accessible, that's when you feel like, okay, I'm using something good. And in my Android journey, I've used iOS. I've used a couple phones that were iOS. I've used iPhone 5S and then iPhone 7S. And to be honest, I didn't enjoy myself as I would enjoy myself with Android. And I left the iOS thing with, because I wanted to leave it. I didn't want to use iOS. So after I left my iPhone 7s, I've gotten a Samsung Galaxy A7 2018, and I'd say that I haven't used any Android phone except Samsung. Um, but on the other hand, I have actually helped people to install their screen readers because since I've learned Android, my English teacher was my idol. He was actually helping people how to use Android and installing things. So I decided, okay, I want to be like him. And I started helping people in my school and answering questions, learning about new things every single day, and installing their screen readers. So that actually has given me a lot of, experiences when it comes to that. Android is not accessible. I want to just say that Android is developing every day, and you know there are a lot of people who actually use Android and who enjoy it, and I'm one of them, proudly. Um, and I would still support Android because I don't like people who just make fun of Android and say like, "Okay, this is Android, it's nothing," and I don't say, I don't mean that iOS is bad, but what I do mean that everything has disadvantages and advantages. And with the days, definitely I did find some disadvantages for, Android, but I was patient, and even though there were some, negative things that happened to me when I was using Android, but at the same time, I just enjoyed Android. I feel like open source for me is a better thing. And as you all know, it's actually developing and developing every day. So this is my Android journey. It was full of action and things, and I've gotten viruses, and I have formatted my phones. I have learned a lot, and my screen reader has stopped. And that's when I decided to learn through myself. That's when I decided to, I won't wait for someone to fix my stuff. I will just learn to fix my things. That's when I learned to format stuff, to fix my screen reader if it's gotten crashed. You know, that's how we learn through, under bad circumstances, unfortunately. So yeah, that's my Android journey.
Thanks, Mariam. I know you said that you've used Samsung's thus far. Do you think that'll continue, or do you think you'll be tempted to try a different manufacturer for your next phone?
I'm actually in the middle of getting a new phone, and I'm still confused about whether getting Samsung or getting Pixel. But I think that I would change to another brand.
Watch this space then.
I think that would be Google Pixel because I love it. I'm just curious about it. It seems cool to me.
But Samsung phones are actually very good phones. Just for the record, especially the hardware. I think in Android,
yeah, that's why I love Samsung.
They have the best.
My phone. They always fall, and something, nothing happens. And also, what actually grabs my attention when it comes to Samsung as well is they actually care about accessibility and things, and they had the voice assistant. So I didn't use any sighted help when I was formatting my phone or anything like that. And the accessibility in Samsung phones definitely helped me a lot.
And that brings us to the end of this week's Blind Android Users podcast. Austin, do you want to go through the various ways people can contact us and be in touch?
To contact us, you can send an email to us at contactus@blindandroidusers.com. You can subscribe to our mailing list by sending an email to blindandroidusers plus subscribe at groups.io. You can join our Telegram group. The link is in the show notes, and it will be in the website also. It is there. And you can follow us on Twitter. The link is in the website. And don't forget to come and subscribe to the new YouTube channel that we started. You can now listen to our podcast on YouTube with some popcorn. And we will be going live very soon. I hope to go live on YouTube very shortly.
Thanks, Austin. It's goodbye from us, and see you next week.
Thank you.
Adios, amigos y amigas.